Hi, this is Linda MacFarlane, and I'm here to talk with the nrons about your new favorite song, Caught Up.
It was always right there on a tip of my tongue. It was always so close, but so far away. I thought I could run.
Hello and welcome to Your New Favorite Song, a podcast brought to you by the nrons, where each week we will feature a recently released song from an independent artist. My name is Bernard Ennis and I'll be your host. Today I'll be speaking to Linda MacFarlane about her recent release, Caught Up, which sounds like a mix of Amy Winehouse vocals with a Motown get down and groove soul sound. I mean, this girl is really cooking. Hello, Lisa. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So maybe you can tell the listeners a little bit about Linda MacFarlane, who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about background.
Sure. I'm from a really little town by Las Vegas in the U.S., and I have started performing in Las Vegas and writing my own original music after kind of breaking free of a abusive relationship and kind of escaping with my kids and, starting a new life for myself. So for me, putting out my first album, Picnic, was very personal and very emotional. And these next songs that I'm releasing are actually about the next stage after that, when I've actually, it's actually they're love songs. They're really sad love songs about finding somebody really wonderful and having a great distance between you and just feeling like it's just not going to work. So that's what this song is about.
Okay. And, you have lived in Las Vegas all your life, or is it a place where you just moved?
Really close to it, yeah, for most of my life, and in Utah. So I don't know if you know about Utah, but it's where the Mormons are. It's a little weird.
And were you a part of that cult or religion, or you grew up as a Mormon?
I was raised Mormon, yes. Okay. I was baptized when I was little. My family was in it. My whole extended family, a lot of them are still Mormon to this day. Mm-hmm. Some of them have left. Some of my brothers and sisters have left, but some are still very involved with it. And What's really crazy is that it's most of the state. I mean, it's most of the people. It's involved in the government. It controls so much. So, it's really crazy.
And it's very hard to break away from the Mormons, because I understand that as soon as you are born, you become automatically a Mormon.
It is like that. Like they want to come knock on your door and try to get you to come to church, and they want to, They have my phone number. They'll text me. I mean, they're very nice people. They're just people of my neighborhood, They're very nice people. But there's a few things about the church that I, of course, do not agree with, and I'm not really a part of. But
could you elaborate a bit more?
Yeah, they have a very strict view of gender roles, with women aren't allowed to have like powerful positions in the church. And so, and as a little girl, I always saw that as a thing that was not good, and I thought that was not a good thing. But then getting older, you just see more complex situations of people using their authority to be very exclusive or, mean or, prejudiced. And it's really sad to see that. And it's just those people, it's not everybody, but it's hard to see that.
Do you think that the religion or the community there kind of promotes or makes it more possible for this kind of suppression of female rights, supporting of gender roles? Is it stronger there because they have this history of this separation?
There's a big feeling of boys will be boys in my hometown, and it's really sad to see. And I feel like that's really what led to the really bad behaviors of this really terrible abusive relationship that I was stuck in for so long, you know, that I was raised to feel like I had to just be whatever I needed to be a good wife, and that I could put up with anything, and that I should put up with anything. And so that's a really harmful thing to teach little girls.
Yeah, because I'd like to come back to that in a little while when we're talking about the song, because that's a line in your song. It's about you just want to be a good wife. So that's it. Kind of comes back. Well, I'll just park that for a second, and we'll come back to that because I'd like to get to know you a little bit more, and then we can talk about the song. So I have some kind of questions that I'd like to ask, some icebreaker questions to maybe get a little bit more into who you are. And the first one is, what is the most out of character thing you've ever done?
I would say maybe I couldn't say that anything is out of character for me because I've been all over the place. You know, my whole life I thought that I had a really solid idea of who I was. I always saw myself as a singer. You know, that was always what I thought of when I was little, as a teenager. That's always what I was dreaming of. And then as soon as it became time that I was old enough to do that, it almost seems like I just lost all confidence. And that's really what was out of character for me after that, was to actually try, you know, to actually start going to open mics and start to try to push myself. And so I've really been all over the place, you know, where I felt like I couldn't do it. And now, you know, to other times in my life where I felt like nothing could stop me. And I've been everywhere in between. So yeah, I would say that the only thing that's really, the things that were out of character for me is maybe there was a period in my life where I went a little bit crazy, you know, just because I wasn't confident, and I made a lot of really bad decisions. You know, I was like 17, 19. Yeah. And I feel like everybody has that weird little time where they just kind of lose it. Yeah. So yeah, that was it. And that's when I got married. So that was it.
So that was it. The most out of character thing you did. So, yeah. So apart from the most out of character thing, what's one thing we don't know about you?
I actually spend most of my time doing homeschool and teaching music lessons. Okay. So I actually spend all of my time just teaching, and mostly with little kids, some teenagers, some adults, you know, for music lessons. But I have 3 first graders this year, and they are 3 6-year-olds.
First graders, yeah. For people who don't live in the US, first grade is
3 6-year-olds, yes. And it's rough, but it's really fun. Yeah. So like that's really me 24/7. Is I'm just at home teaching.
Okay. And do you have? Because I mean, Corona will have obviously impacted your teaching work. Has that moved a lot more onto online, or do you still receive people at home? I guess you receive your students at home.
I used to have students come into my home, but once the coronavirus thing hit, I really just decided I had to do everything I could to protect my family. I was teaching at a music school in Las Vegas at the time, and you know, the school had actually been flooded by a completely unrelated catastrophe about 2 weeks before that. So I'd already kind of lost a ton of work, you know, before that. And then I was sick. And so I, you know, couldn't work. And then at that point, I was just like, I can't keep going to this school with all these kids. And, you know, I knew that I was getting sick from all of my students that I was in a small room with. Yeah. You know, and so even before the coronavirus thing, I was getting sick all the time and just trying to deal with it, you know, just trying to keep working or whatever. So for me, it's been a really good transition in a way, because now most of my lessons are online. Once in a while, I'll go to my students' home and I'll I'll wear a mask if I'm going into their home to, because I don't want to bring my germs in there just in case. But most of my stuff is online. I'm just performing online, and all my kids' school is online. So yeah, we're mostly just hanging out at home all the time.
And you have, how many children do you have? That's not personal.
4.
One child.
4.
And how do you combine then? I mean, the life of a performing artist is not really very conducive to small children. So how do you combine that?
Well, I have gone on tour twice actually, and just for about a week at a time, where I really just scheduled my own performances, and just once per year when I was releasing the album, I would go out and go to a few different parts of the country and go do some shows. And it really didn't seem like it really affected things that much. Because, when I would go to Las Vegas and perform, I have tons of family there, and we would go, just hang out with my family. And then we'd go to my concert and they'd all watch me perform. Yeah. And then we, go eat dinner afterwards. So really it felt like not work at all. And it felt like it was just so well integrated that it really was good. Because most of the time I got to do really family friendly events like an art festival, playing at a downtown container park in Las Vegas, things that the kids could come to, and that there was things for them to do, with their aunts while they just hung out in the audience while I was performing. So it really all came together really well, honestly.
Oh, okay. And I mean, when people think of Las Vegas, they think of the Strip and all these the big casinos where I don't know, Frank Sinatra and so and Elvis Presley have sung. And do you ever get to play at those kind of places or? And that was really
fun as well, but that was all after the kids' bedtime, so it really didn't, bother them too much. That I would just go off, I'd go to really incredible blues bars or playing the places on the Strip. Like I got to do weddings that were in the Bellagio, and I got to play at the Sands Expo Center at like a big convention, and some other places that are right along the Strip that are like lounges and bars. And I got to play the Hard Rock Cafe on the Strip. That was my favorite one because it was just so big and the sound was so perfect. And they had like this big, amazing dressing room and everything. And it felt really cool to be able to play there. So there's definitely a lot of those, those times where I did go out and do, later shows or like playing bars and things like that. And that was really cool. But it seems like it was good to be able to show my kids that I'm making a good amount of money living my dream, and I get to go spend time with my kids at the same time.
Yeah. That's a really amazing thing. I think also the whole Corona episode has also made it possible for a lot more people to combine work and family because I work at home now full time, and I used to go to the office all the time. I think I can get as much done in like 4 hours in the morning there as I would the whole day. And sometimes in the afternoon I have a meeting, and I try and schedule all of that stuff, looking at my email, all in the afternoon. So I've got a lot more time. It also means I've got more time to devote to this kind of podcast and making music. So
there's a lot that I miss about it. I miss the crowds. There was a place at the Downtown Grand in Las Vegas that I got to go perform like every other month or so. I'd get to go perform, and it would always be tons of people there just wandering in off the old school downtown part of Las Vegas. And I miss that. I miss the crowds and like all these new people coming in and, finding my music, trying to buy the CD. So like a lot has definitely changed that we don't have that part, but I don't miss the driving around, I don't miss the traveling. And I've saved so much time where I get back time, with my kids because of all of that. So I'm very grateful. And honestly,
the thing that occurred to me just now, when you're talking about doing live shows, you don't have or do you have a backing band? Because you said you're a solo artist.
I've played with a band. Yeah, I've played with a band before, but not currently.
And so how does your live show look? Do you have backing tracks, or do you just play you and your guitar?
No, it's just me and my guitar. And the way that I play the guitar live is, I try to make it a little bit percussive, and actually kind of like a, rhythmic guitar. So it kind of fills out the whole sound of it. But yeah, it's always just me and my guitar. I don't do like backing tracks or, live drums or anything like that. I did have some really wonderful shows with with some bands here. And I think, two or three different full bands, comprised of different people. And we got to do a lot of really cool shows, but it's just really hard to keep good musicians. And I think in Las Vegas, there's a lot of other opportunities for them. Yeah. And so they just go their separate ways.
Okay. So because it leads me very nicely into the song, because there are quite a few things I think that we've already highlighted, would have touched on. And the first thing is what this song is about. It sounds like a kind of a new love, or is that wrong? Caught up on you is.
Yeah. It was pretty new at the time that I wrote this song. I think we'd been together maybe between 6 months and a year, and long enough to know that we were very much in love. But I was living in my hometown in Utah, and he was living in Las Vegas, and it's about 2 hours away to drive there.
Yeah.
And I was here fighting for custody of my kids and, trying to make a living to support them. And he was over there, and he also had a son. And so we're kind of established, and it was hard to make a transition. And honestly, it was really hard to be making money at that time, because the situation I'd just gotten out of was really bad and had very much wrecked my financial situation. And so I was like trying to climb out of a hole of all of that, of debt, and of trying to create some kind of income for myself where I could still be watching my kids at the same time. And it was a real struggle, and we tried for a long time, and then decided that it would, like, all of the traveling and everything was just too much, that we couldn't handle it, and that we had to just focus on ourselves, basically. And it was really sad. And that I actually had 2 songs that I wrote back to back that came out of this, that are both up on Spotify now.
Okay.
So this one caught up, and the one called "'Cause You Love Me," and they kind of go hand in hand, where one's like the angry reaction, and then there's the other reaction after that that's like, well, I guess it's for the best.
It was so close. I can see it in your eyes. Ooh, I could see paradise.
It kind of sounds to me a little bit like the kind of song that Adele would write. It's very Adele.
Thank you.
And coupled with, you have a really fabulous voice. It's, the comparison to Amy Winehouse is absolutely correct. You have a really beautiful voice, and you've got this kind of rough edge that you can put into your voice as well. Sometimes kind of, and it sounds like it's, that the way that Amy Winehouse also sings, this kind of growly, rough edge. That can, but it's really under control.
Yeah, she's a huge inspiration for me. Yeah. I love her. And and going a little further back, also Janis Joplin, she was a huge inspiration for me when I was little. And I thought that just the feeling in her voice was so incredible that I wanted to be able to do that and to try to practice that.
But this song is kind of a hopeful song. It's really, you're in love with somebody and you want to be with them, and you just and that sounds a lot different.
Honestly, it was supposed to be a saying goodbye kind of song, like I guess we're done now. So to me at the time, I couldn't even perform this for a long time, because I would start crying when I was singing. So it actually took me a while to be able to really develop it, because I usually will kind of work on the melody a little bit and really build it up while I'm performing it live, while I was doing shows, because I was doing so many live shows at the time. I was going I was doing live shows in Las Vegas 2 or 3 times a week, and just playing a ton of my original songs. And I couldn't even put this one out there for a while, for maybe several months.
It comes really home to you. And do you still have contact with, or are you completely broken up, or are you back together, or has anything?
We're engaged now.
Oh, you're engaged now.
Together.
Okay. Oh, so that's not all bad news.
Yeah, we got over the mountain.
Yeah.
We did it. So there definitely was hope at the end of that story. But at the time that I wrote the song, it was not that feeling at all.
And you also said earlier on you were in an abusive relationship, or how? Yeah,
I'm actually still fighting my kids' biological father, because he is still very abusive to them, and it's an ongoing thing, unfortunately. But we do everything that we can for them and try to, just try to fight for them in every way that we can.
Okay, because if I understood it correctly, you said a moment ago that you had one child.
Well, I have 4.
Oh, you have 4 kids.
There's my 3 kids, and then my stepson.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. I didn't know. I didn't quite get that. And I hear you keep saying them and my kids, and I think you've only got one, but you've got more. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a whole circus.
That's not a problem. It's it's lovely. Children are a great thing. They're
blessing. Incredible.
Yeah. No, okay, but I was just a little bit confused. So your children are still living? Are they living with you full time, or are they living with their father full time?
They live with me, but they have to go spend every other weekend with him.
Okay, and how does that make you feel, or how does that impact your life?
I feel like it's made my kids have to grow up a lot, and it's made me have to learn how to talk to them about really hard things that I never thought I'd have to talk to them about at this age. And so I'm really blessed that they are so sweet and so smart and so understanding, that I can talk to them about, the reality of the situation that they're in, telling them, because every time their dad has hit them, I report it to the Child Protective Service. I will report it to the police. I will do what I can to try and stop him from having any more time with them. Mm-hmm. And they want to give him more and more chances. They want to let him have every chance in the world to try again and be a good dad to them. And he just keeps doing the same thing. And so I have to look my kids in the eye and tell them that I'm trying to protect them. Yeah. That I'm doing what I can, even if it's not making a real difference, even if it's not making it so they don't have to spend 2 solid days with him, Yeah. So yeah, we've had to have some really tough conversations about, how they're feeling. And I wish I could do more for them, but I do everything that I can think of.
Yeah. And how has that then affected, how does that affect your music and what you write about and how you write?
Well, I honestly stopped writing music for a while. I didn't write many songs between the time that these songs, were written and last year. I mean, there was maybe 1 or 2 years where I didn't really write a new song because I was so preoccupied with this whole struggle. Mm-hmm. It was every moment that I was awake, I was trying to do something. We had to file court paperwork. I have to get a new attorney because the last one just didn't do what he said he was going to do, and just one thing after the next. I have to find where the money's going to come from, to pay for the next lawyer because the first one didn't do anything.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been very preoccupying, but at the same time, when I have my little 6-year-old son come to me and he's got a problem where he's angry and he doesn't want to be angry because he doesn't want to treat people like his dad treats people. And he's telling me as a 6-year-old boy that he wants to make a change in himself. And I can't believe how mature he is and how sweet he is to come to me with that. And we wrote a song about it, me and him together. And so now, you know, instead of being the thing that's stopping me, I'm hoping that this is making, you know,
new inspiration.
Making it so it's the thing that is, it's inspiring new things and actually making my songs be about something that's going to help strengthen people in the future instead of just about the sad, bad things that have happened to me in the past.
Yeah, and so if I get it right, I mean, you wrote these songs. This song "Caught Up" is quite a long time ago, but it's only just recently. Oh, I guess it's only just recently come out. So somewhere in this whole process, you've got songs that are sitting there waiting, and you've gone through all this whole.
So now.
And now you've recorded it and putting it out there. So how's that process worked?
Well, these 2 songs that are out on Spotify now, I recorded them in a studio in Las Vegas, and it was finished before the COVID thing started. So once we all went into just staying home all the time, I started to get like my home studio stuff together. And you can see that I've actually got like actually some stuff to record myself now, and I can make my own music. So from here on out, the next songs that are going to be coming out, and especially the ones that I've written, you know, here during this time of just being alone, I'm going to be doing all of the music myself, you know, doing the drums, doing the recording myself, doing the everything myself. And
do you play the drums?
It's going to be a little bit different.
Do you play drums or are you going to program them?
I'm going to program them. I do have some experience playing the drums, but I'm not, you know,
a drummer.
I'm not a drummer. I have definitely had drums. That was my first, maybe my second instrument I ever owned. Because when I was really little, I started flute in band, the flute. But after that, when I was like 8, somebody gave me a drum, like a djembe drum. That's like a
I know what a djembe is. Yep.
And I loved it so much. Like I really played that thing a lot. And we went to a lot of like really hippie gatherings where they taught primitive skills, like starting a fire with sticks and stuff. And they would have these campfires at night where people played the drums and did like a drum circle. And that was like the highlight of my life at that point of like 8 and 10 years old, is that I would get to go sometimes and be part of these drum circles. So yeah, I love playing every part of it. You know, I have production software where I could put in, you know, the guitars, the bass, the drums, the weird little synth sounds. And I have some music that I've made that's like that, where I've just like produced the track myself. But I think I'm a little bit better at it now to where I could actually put those songs out there on Spotify that I'm making now myself.
And with Caught Up, was that you playing all of the instruments, or have you used that with the band? Have you done that with the band?
Yeah, I was on the guitar and I played a few different guitar parts, and I believe we had a bass player that was a session musician, and then a drummer that I had been performing with for a long time. And so yeah, the drummer was actually like we were working together and doing a lot of gigs together for a while.
So he wrote his own he composed the drum part for that song. Well, you know what I mean. It's
yes and no. The drums are actually programmed on these songs as well, because we recorded the drums, but at that point it didn't sound how we wanted it to sound, and so we actually chopped it all up and programmed it. So
you've used samples of the actual drum recording, and then you programmed that's so you've got your own drum samples.
Well, I took a chance, and I took it on you, and you gave me the world, but now you're leaving, and I gotta let you.
So when you mic'd up your drum, did you mic up every single part of the kit individually, or did you just use which otherwise you wouldn't be able to
we actually had a really incredible drum tech in Las Vegas who had this whole setup in his home studio, and he He performed with a lot of really big shows in Las Vegas. But he also records, just as his private passion, I guess. But but he had everything mic'd up. This big, beautiful drum set. It was just the shiniest, most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And he very meticulously was miking up every little part of it.
Yeah.
So that's why, even though the drums didn't come out, how we wanted them to, we still had a lot of really good content to use.
Yeah, that's really great, because a lot of people just use a single condenser mic to do the whole drum sound, which, if it's not perfect, then you can't salvage anything from it. So that's really cool. And you've done this all in your own mixing?
No. These two songs were with a really incredible producer named Pat Hunley in Las Vegas, and he is currently working at a big, nice studio in Las Vegas. But he just knew a lot of people that helped make these connections. Like, he knew the person who was the bass player. He knew the person who was the drum tech, who'd be able to record it. And he made all these connections for me. So when we went to record the drums, he was there, our producer was there, and he was kind of overseeing everything. And then when we went back to work on the vocals and do everything, we listened back and we were like, the drums, it's just not there. That's not the one. So it was the producer, Pat, who actually cut it all up and arranged it and made it how it's supposed to be.
Whoa. That sounds really cool. And so the producer has done all of the mixing, or were you also involved in that process?
Yep. I was a little bit involved. I would listen to what he sent me and just say, I want this part to stand out a little bit more, or could we not have the effects so much on this part? And I'd worked on one of the songs with Pat Hunley directly, and then one of the songs I was working with his his assistants that he was kind of training, and so the one that he worked on was perfect, and the other one I just asked them to tone the effects down a little bit, because I don't really like vocal effects a lot. I have always tried to keep a really natural kind of sound to things, I guess. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard because people hear a song and they have their interpretation of what it's going to be. And then I heard it and I was like, oh, that's a lot of effects. Let's just tone it down a little bit. Yeah. But we came to a nice negotiation of that, and they were all very, very helpful, very respectful, very awesome. So I'm really lucky to just have so many other people that I've been able to work with, because I had a really good team of musicians on my first album on Picnic, the studio that we were working in Las Vegas, and the session musicians that came into work. And so, it's a lot different having to do everything yourself, but at the same time, it's a little bit more freeing, because, you don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to worry about anybody else's opinion, time schedule, budget, attitude, anything.
Well, apart from learning how to do all of the things in your door, and that's a really steep learning curve to do a lot of production. So now the music you're going to be releasing after these singles is going to be recorded, mixed, mastered, produced, all by. Oh, are you going to master them yourself, or are you going to send those?
No, I'll be reaching out to people who are really knowledgeable to do, mixing and mastering for me.
Okay.
But I'll do as much of it as I can myself. And then, if I think that what I've done for the bass line doesn't sound right, I'll get somebody else to do it. I don't have a problem, reaching out for help. But at this point, I do want to just keep pushing, just keep recording, even though a lot of things are closed down, so I might even end up back in the studio with Pat Hunley if I'm very lucky. So
okay,
I'll definitely just be trying to get lots of new music out as soon as possible. Not to be detrimental to the system, but which one of the two songs was done by Pat Hunley himself? Oh, I'll never tell.
Oh, you'll never tell? Or is that the name of the song?
No. you'll have to guess.
All
Let
right.
me know. Let me know what you think.
I will do. Outside of this podcast, we won't slander anybody in this podcast. Just interesting to know.
No, there was really no problems at all during the process. It was nothing like that.
Oh.
You know, it's just I feel like he was geared towards doing pop songs. You know, that's all. And I wanted it to just sound really natural. But no, I mean, just
it's the sound of it. You know, it's the mark of a great master when his assistant sounds every bit as good as he does, or you know. Well, you can't really tell the difference because then he's passing on his knowledge to the next generation of people. So,
I think every producer also has their own
unique
idea of what they want their content to sound like. You know, they want to be somebody who makes pop songs, or they want to be somebody who makes hip hop songs. And actually, the producer that I worked with on this song, he does a lot of hip hop, and so it's really cool that he can also do, you know, R&B and pop and rock music and make it sound good in those genres and not like just mix it all together, you know? Yeah.
So, I mean, that brings me to the ultimate question is, does the final song that you've released match up to the idea that you had in your head, your initial idea?
That's a good question. I feel like most of the songs that I put out have done that, but these two songs maybe more than in the past. And I feel really good about that because I really want to get to that point, you know, where I have all the production knowledge myself that I could just sit down at my computer and just say, you know, just put it straight from my brain into the software. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting closer to that, where it can really come out exactly like I'm imagining it.
Yeah, it's a bit like playing an instrument, eh? When you start, you have this idea in your head, and it takes a very long time to develop the technical skill to actually produce a melody or produce that sounds like what's going on in your mind. And that's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, and over the duration of this whole quarantine, I've definitely learned a lot about production, about recording, about all of these things. So yeah, come a long way since those very first songs that the very first songs I ever put out where I was producing them myself, they sound very different, you know, they sound very, very different. We've come a long way.
We've come a long ways. Yeah. Technology also has come a long way. So, so we've come a long way, but what's going to happen? Where are we going to? What's new? What's coming up for you in the next few months or the next half year, let's say?
Well, I do still have 2 other songs that were meant to go together with the 2 songs that I just released. So I'm hoping to get those put out, within the next 6 months or so, to get those put out pretty regularly and just keep new songs coming out to just keep it going as much as possible.
Okay, and there won't be any live shows, I guess, for a while. I don't know how the situation is in the States, but I think it'll probably be a few months before any live shows are. But you also do live streams. Yeah,
honestly, I've done a Monday night live stream for about 6 weeks now, and I really enjoyed doing that and still having a live audience. Because I did have some big shows for the summer that I was super excited about that got canceled. But they are doing live music around here. Yeah. But I haven't fully committed to really getting out there myself. Yeah. Because I really like being home with my kids and just recording my music here. So we'll see how it goes. But I'll definitely get it out there in a big way if we have another live show coming up.
And the live stream is on Instagram or on Facebook?
It's on Facebook.
It's on Facebook.
And everybody can go check it out, and they can go follow me at Lisa Mac LV, and both on Instagram and Facebook. And I talk about it all the time. So I'll, if you follow me, I'll let you know what it is. Yeah.
So for what I'll do is I will put a link to your Facebook or to your social media links in the show notes. So if you're listening to this podcast on your telephone, then you can just click on the link and it will take you directly to Lisa's page, either on Instagram or on Facebook. And you can check her out, and obviously, well, you know, there's no doubt you'll want to follow her music because it's great. But so we'll do that in the podcast. So before we finish, are there any other links or shout outs that you want to do, like merchandising? Where can we speak to you? Where can we find you?
Yeah, all of that stuff, everything that's videos, talking to me, asking about merchandise, it's all at lisamac.live. And I also am teaching lessons online. So if anybody needs, you know, voice lessons, guitar lessons, piano lessons, ukulele lessons, that's what I do with most of my time, is actually teaching my students one-on-one online. Okay,
and that's Lisa Mac with an A. It's LISAMAC.live.
That's right.
Okay, and that's also the place that's also the home of your music school, as well as your music creation business.
That's right. And I've also done a lot of really different services through that as well, just consulting online with people to help them write their music, to help them, you know, learn about songwriting, about how to establish what your chord progression is, how to get your lyrics out, you know, things like that. So yeah, there's just a link on there that says schedule time with me, and it's pretty vague, but there's a lot of music out there on my website. There's videos and also a link to where you can buy merchandise.
Okay.
Lisa Mac t-shirts and stuff like that.
Okay, cool stuff. So one last question, the biggie, and that is, what is your favorite new song?
Oh, that's such a good question.
I only have good questions.
I really love covering new songs, and recently I've just found so many of them that are so wonderful. There's one that really falls in my lane, though, that you might really love, and it's called Fool for You by Snoh Alegra. Have you ever heard of her?
No, I haven't.
It's spelled Snoh, Snoh Alegra, and she sounds like Amy Winehouse. It's incredible. You know, her voice is just really full of personality.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll check her out after this podcast.
Yeah, that's one I could not help but cover and go put it on my my YouTube channel.
Well, I'll definitely check it out, because it would be, you know, I always like to hear new music. It's basically the impetus behind this show is, you know, I quite like to hear lots of new music, and it's really great to have input from, well, other people who have completely different music, or different taste to mine. So thank you very much, and also thank you very much for spending the last hour talking to me on this song. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, to be interviewing you, and so I'd like to say thank you very much, and speak to you again soon.
Thank you. See you later.
I've been caught up on you.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and that you come away with an appreciation of the creative process, and more importantly, have found your new favourite song. All of the songs featured in the show are on our Spotify playlist, The Enrons New Favourites, and you can find all the links mentioned in the podcast in the show notes below. Next week, I'll be speaking to Simon Lane about his song Holding On, which is a very personal reflection on being separated from the ones you love. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please hit the subscribe button and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, or the podcast app you're listening on. If you want to help us to continue making and growing the podcast, as well as releasing new music, then you can either buy us a coffee or become a regular patron. See the show notes for details. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.